Great, thank you, Sebastian. So welcome everyone, and welcome to this webinar with the purpose is to show you some of the new features in the new version of Phoenix, version 8.4, that I hope can help you with your daily task and becoming more efficient with Phoenix. So Phoenix version 8.4 was recently released. That was in the 19th of May, so last month. The presenters for today is myself. I'm Anna Henry. I am a trainer. I have been using WinNLN for many, many years, and I lead Certara University, where you can get all type of training in the area of PKPD. I will be presenting to you what is new in Phoenix 8.4 today. And with me is also Linda Hughes. Linda is a principal research scientist with Certara. She is the product owner of Phoenix WinNLN, Phoenix IBIBC, as well as the validation suite products. Linda will be monitoring the questions that you may have, and she is going to help me answer as many as possible during the Q&A session. Okay, so before we proceed, we're going to have a short poll. Sebastian, if you can put the poll up, and if you can just please answer these questions, that would be helpful. I'm also going to turn off my camera. It's a little bit distracting for me before I continue. Okay, so I hope everyone can see the poll and you're able to answer. All right, let me take a look at these answers. So it seems like some of you are already using 8.4. That is fantastic. And others are on earlier versions. Some of you don't even have Phoenix. Okay, well, this is helpful. Thank you very much. We will continue now with our agenda for today. Okay, so during this webinar, we will dive into some key enhancements of Phoenix, and I will show you enhancements that affect all the products. So some of you may have WinNLN, NLME, IBIBC. So when we talk about framework enhancements, these are like Phoenix platform features, like importing data sets, maybe workflows. And I will then talk about some of the objects within Phoenix, the plotting and reporting, some of the enhancements related to that, that also are for all Phoenix products. I will talk as well about an external tool that is called ggQuick EDA that is going to help you with exploratory data analysis and some of the enhancements that have been done to that. That already existed, but there's some nice enhancements that make it very useful and also available to all Phoenix products. I will, at the end, focus on enhancements for Phoenix and NLME, that is the nonlinear mixed effect tool for population PKPD. So some of you may or not have a license for that. And then we will finish with a Q&A. So before I get started, I just want to let you know that I will do the demonstration using what's called Phoenix Hosted. And what that means is it's the same Phoenix as in your desktop, but it runs in the Amazon cloud. Certara is now offering this option because it provides a secure system. And by secure, I mean you have a username and password. It's also a validated system. Certara validates the Phoenix application, and it also validates the whole environment. It does a lot of validation. And it optimizes the environment, meaning that it has all the settings that are needed for premium performance of Phoenix. And if you want to learn more about this, you are lucky because tomorrow there's a webinar that will focus specifically on Phoenix Hosted. We are going to paste the registration link to this webinar in the chat if you are interested. So the webinar will provide you a lot more on Phoenix Hosted. What you need to know for now is anything that I'm showing you in my demonstration, even though I'm using Phoenix Hosted, is the same as in the Phoenix desktop. And if there's any difference, I will mention it. Okay, so without delay, I'm going to start the demonstration. To start with, because I'm using Phoenix Hosted, I click on this icon on the bottom of the screen. Actually, let me close Phoenix. So this is like a virtual machine. It's the cloud where Phoenix has been installed. You can see I also have R. So all this is controlled by Certara, and you can easily access Phoenix. I have it already open, so I'm just going to click on it and show you that I'm using the latest version. So if you go to the help menu and you go about Phoenix, you will see that under the Phoenix icon here, you have 8.4. So this is the latest version. And as you know, the licenses, whatever licenses you have are here with a circle, an orange circle. Some of you may not have all the licenses like I do. So you may just have, for example, a license for WinOutlet. Okay. One thing that you would notice right away is that there used to be a 64 right here on the title of Phoenix, and this is now gone. It stands for 64-bit application, but it got confusing. People thought that was the version of Phoenix, so we have removed that completely. It is, of course, a 64-bit application, but that 64 is gone. So that's one of the first things that you will know when you use 8.4. Okay. So I have a couple of Phoenix projects already open here, and I will start by showing you a very useful new thing that has been added, which is the fact that you can now duplicate any objects. You can create a duplicate very quickly. So if I highlight this object, this is a plot, I can right click and say duplicate, and it will make a copy right away. Also notice that I'm working within a sub-workflow. So this copy goes right into the workflow or sub-workflow that I'm doing the duplicate for. So this will save you that copy and paste that you were using before. Notice that if I'm here in this box plot and I right click on it, I can say duplicate and it will put it at this level. So that's not within the sub workflow. And of course, as always, I can always move it and I can put it where I desire. Okay. So that's a nice thing. I find it very, very useful. The next thing I want to show you is that we are now able to import SAS data sets. Okay. So I can go into the import option in Phoenix. I can find a data set that has this extension of SAS 7 BDAT. So these are, I think it began on the SAS version 7 when they started saving these data sets with these extensions. And we were not able to import these extensions into Phoenix before, but we can now. So you can select the SAS data set, you can click open, and it will bring it right into the data folder. You can see that there was no import wizard. It automatically opens it right into the data folder. Okay. And since I'm here, I'm also going to show you an improvement on the export of SAS transport files. So you can create a SAS transport file from any worksheet within Phoenix. So any object that has this little grid on the side of it. So I'm just going to use the same one that we just imported. So I can right click and I go to export and I can pick an XPT, so a SAS transport file. Okay. Once I do that, this window comes up, and notice that in 8.4 now we can save to different versions. So not just 5.6, 5 and 6, you can do version 8 and version 9. If I select version 9, notice that the SAS variables right now, they can accept 32 characters, up to 32. So there's no need on having to shorten those to 8 characters as we did in the past. And then you can just say, okay, and that would save the export file. Yeah. All right. I also wanted to show you that we have new timestamps. So in any object that you have in Phoenix, there's a settings file in the results. Let me just make sure that I have one that I've run. So in the setting files, you have a date stamp, and notice that this date stamp in previous versions was this coordinated universal time. So this is the local time in Greenwich, England, and then other locations will be these UTC time hours plus minus your local time zone. This is now something that you can control, and you can have your local time instead of UTC time. And also notice that the username is also in the settings. So now if you were doing some type of export, like a dependencies export, the user, whoever did the work, would be indicated in this settings file. But let me show you how you would how you would change these settings for local time. You go to Edit, Preferences, and here under the General Preferences, Projects, we have a new option to use local time. So if I click on that, use local time, and apply it, now I'm going to have to rerun something. So I'm going to rerun this plot. You will see that this has changed. I'm in US Mountain Time, so that's UTC -6, because we have daylight savings right now. And now anything that I execute after that will have my local time in the settings. Okay, let's now proceed with some other new things. In box plots, if you're familiar to making box plots, we have, and I can use this copy that we made here. Okay. I can have a box plot where I may want to display the actual data. So we have here the mean, the median, and then the 75 and 25 percentile, as well as the whisker plots. But if I want to display the data, I can select this series and I can click on show all data points. Now this was available before, but what we have added in 8.4 is jitter. What that means, if I select that, you will see the points, but they will not line up here. They would be randomly scattered for better visualization of the data. That what will not change are outliers. So outliers remain in the center and those are not changed. To better understand this, let me just show you a screenshot. I'm going back to my presentation from before, and you can see here that this is how it used to look before, and this is how it looks now. So you have this jitter that is available to you. Okay. Right, going back to Phoenix. Another thing I want to show you is some changes that were done to the regression, the lowest regressions. So I have a plot right now where I just have body weight versus age. And if I want to put a regression, I can select that series on the bottom, making sure that you can see it. Let me see if I can make it a little bit bigger here. Yeah. So just to show you that under this series, I have a regression option. And in this regression, if I click to generate regression, you can do a linear, a log, and a lowest. For lowest here, and I'm sorry, I had already played with this a little bit. This would be the default. This would be check as an out of it. So lowest stands for locally weighted scatter plot smoothing. And this out of it box will have the application automatically choose the value of the smoothing parameter for you. Let me go back to a regular view. And the new option here is that you can uncheck this out of it and determine what smoothing parameter in percentage you would like to use. So lowest is a technique to obtain this smooth curve, as you can see here. And it's also referred to as a local polynomial regression. So it basically fits a weighted first degree polynomial to a group of local points. And the number of points selected for this polynomial is what is controlled by this smoothing parameter. So if I increase this smoothing parameter, let me make it like 80, you will see that I smooth the curve. And what do I mean by that? It means that it takes those peaks and valleys away. And if I decrease this, is less smooth. Okay? So you can investigate the trends on your data a little bit better. So this lowest is helpful when you try to visualize trends in the data. And now with Phoenix 8.4, you have this flexibility to change these smoothing parameter. Notice though that in some cases, if the smoothing parameter is too small, this makes the local neighborhood that you're using, those points just become not enough. Then the lowest line may become not calculable. And this depends, of course, on your data. In this particular example, if I go to 30, you will see that I cannot calculate the lowest regression. So if you go too low, in some cases, depending on your data, you will not see the lowest at all. But if I increase that, I think I might have to go a little bit higher to like 33. Now I can see the lowest regression. Okay, so this is new in 8.4 that gives you this flexibility. I also wanted to show you a couple of changes on tables. So let me create a table. I can go to NCA results and take this final parameter pivoted worksheet, right click on it and send it to a table under the reporting category. I'm going to put it in the sub workflow. And I'm going to very quickly create a table. So I'm going to have subjects and I'm going to pick a couple of PK parameters. So let's say I want to have maybe Cmax, AUC last, and AUC infinity. Just going to run this table to show you some of the new capabilities here. And they relate to descriptive statistics. But one nice thing, I don't know if you noticed, but I was very excited to see this, is that when I run the table, it actually defaults to the table. In previous versions, it used to default to settings and you always had to click up. So now it defaults to the table. So I was happy to see this new improvement. And you'll also notice that if you want to add descriptive stats to this table and you go to the statistics tab, this has changed. So before you just had a list that you can select from and you had to like scroll down. Now these are in categories and it looks the same as the actual descriptive statistic object within Phoenix. So in this category, you can expand it by using the plus and minus. Then you can select what you may want, or you can click on the top here and then everything is added to the table. So let me just click maybe N and mean. And you can just play around and see which ones you would like for your spread. Maybe I want min, median, max. And if you are looking for a geometric mean, maybe you can have geometric mean and geometric CV%. So it allows you to more quickly find these descriptive statistics that you may want. And then when you run it, those get added to your table. I don't know if some of you know this, but if you want to just see descriptive statistics instead of seeing all the subjects, even though you selected them, you can just click on summary only and rerun it. You'll only get the summary. This is available in all the previous versions too, but since I'm here, just wanted to show you that. I find it very helpful. So for tables, this is this new look of the table. Okay. Now we're going to move on to see some enhancements in Reporter. So I can add a reporter object. I just go to new, reporting, reporter. And I don't know how many of you use Reporter, but this allows you to export the data into a Word document or maybe a PDF. And it has some nice ways of presenting your data with captions. And there's like a table of contents here that you can add or not. I'm going to remove that. But the way that this works is you can add what you want to be displayed in your Word document here in this section. So the new thing in 8.4 is that we have now these buttons that would allow you to very quickly just click all the tables, all the plots, or all the worksheets. Otherwise, you would need to drill down to find where this is. So if I click on all tables, that one table that we created is added. And if you want to drill down, you will see that it has gone to the sub workflow, then it has gone to table, and it has picked the results. So it just saves you some time depending on what you want to put in your report. And there's a preview, so I can preview the table here. There's some settings that you can change. Now, none of that has changed, but this is available in Reporter. And if I want all the plots, I can click all plots. That would be all the plots that have been created. If there's one that I don't want, I can just remove it right from there. Are you sure? Yes, and I can just delete it. And of course, all the worksheets, that is probably going to be a lot of them. So if I click on it, a lot of worksheets are added, and there's previews for them here in the tool. Okay, so the new things in Reporter are just these buttons that allows you to select things a little bit quicker. If somehow I didn't mean all the worksheets and I want to start again, you can just uncheck everything. It will go away, and here in the data, I can uncheck it too, and they say, well, I really just wanted my table to be in my report, maybe tables and plots. Okay, once you run these, let me do it so you can see it. If some of you are not familiar with Reporter, this, I have it to create a Word document right now, but you can also create a PDF if you want it. Okay, it's taking a little bit of time. Oh, I didn't press the button, sorry. It is executing right now. So it can create all of these. You can also create images instead of Word tables if you want it. So images that cannot be edited. And we see here that it has created this Word document. Okay, and there's many options in Reporter. If you're interested in that, I can give you some references. All right, so let's continue. The next thing I wanted to show is that external software that we can use, which is, let me show you, in this option to send to an external software, we have this GG Quick EDA. This is for exploratory data analysis. And it's available in previous versions, but in 8.4, now it retains the settings, so it's a lot more useful than it used to be. And this is an actual R package, it's an R-Shiny R package for graphing to do quick exploratory data analysis. I'll show you a little bit more about it. And let me get started. I just click on GG Quick EDA, I'll put it in the sub workflow. And when it started, I also wanted to show you that for this to work in the preferences, you need to make sure that you have indicated to the system where your R executable is. Okay, so R needs to be installed in your computer. And of course, the Phoenix hosted setups, it's already there. And the version of R needs to be greater than 4. And you already need to have the GG Quick EDA package in your R. Okay, so you already have to have that installed in R for in order for this to work. And then once this is selected here, I can click, I can send any worksheet to a GG Quick EDA. This will open up. This is GG Quick EDA. So this is an R-Shiny, but it's now integrated into Phoenix. Well, it was before, but it retains all the settings of the last plot that you selected. So let's very quickly do a very basic plot here. I'll just do a concentration, and nominal time is fine. There's a lot of potential for GG Quick EDA. There's this how-to button that will show you a lot more information. Let me also share with you that in this GitHub for Certara R, we have all these R tools that Certara has developed, all these applications. And if you're interested in reading more about GG Quick EDA, you can go in here and get a lot more information. So GG stands for the fact that it uses the ggplot2 package, and then Quick because it can quickly do exploratory data analysis, EDA. And you can get a lot of information in GitHub on what this tool can do. You can see that you can do very nice plots here with colors. So it really brings more power to Phoenix to have this connection with GG Quick EDA. Okay, but in our case, we're very quickly going to do a very basic type of plot. I'm going to plot in linear scale. I'm going to show lines and going to group by subject and maybe even color by subject. So you can see here, if I scroll up, that I'm creating this plot. I can do some nice things like I can add, let me see, I can add the median maybe with some percentiles that I can control here. I can make it a ribbon if I want to. That means that I have this shaded area. Maybe I want to reduce the percentiles and just make it, I don't know, like 75 maybe. and now I have this plot. So the advantage in 8.4 is that all this is remembered. So that is the settings that you set up, that you put in ggQuick EDA will be remembered if you close the project, or if you make a copy, or if you walk away from it. So if I click here on this table and then I come back with ggQuick EDA, all this is remembered. Now, we don't have capabilities to integrate this output into a finished workflow yet, so you couldn't put in a reporter this. So you would still need to use native ggQuick EDA ways of exporting. And how you do that is you put here in a name, you give it a name. So this would be maybe profiles. You save the plot, and then you can go to export plots, and it gives you options here on how to export this plot as a PDF or JPEG or anything else that you may want. So you still need to use the way that ggQuick EDA works to export, but this view from Phoenix will always be available. And this is supposed to be exploratory, so you can play with it and you can really quickly change things and allow you to visualize your data better. Okay, so moving on, I'm going to now move to NLME. Okay, so the improvements to NLME. I have a project here that is already open, and the data that I'm using has what we call some delay absorption. Let me show you a plot. It will be a little bit easier to see. If I have the plots of the data, it's difficult to discern what's going on the absorption phase. So I have cut the x-axis to the first 8 hours. And you see here that there's some type of delay absorption. Okay. So in the past, as far as library models, your option for delay was to have a T-lag. So to add a T-lag to your model. I have done this in this maximum likelihood object, and let me show you a couple of things. Okay, one thing that is new in 8.4 is a rename. So this used to be called extravascular, and now this absorption is called first order. It's exactly the same as before. So if you had a previous version of this model that said extravascular, when it loads in 8.4, it would automatically change to first order. As I said, it's the same as before. And then for delays in this model, we have this T-lag. So one new thing is that this first order extravascular has been renamed. And I will show you later that we have actually added 3 more library models for delay absorption. We're very excited about this. You have now a distribution delay of gamma, distribution delay of inverse Gaussian, and a distribution delay of Y-ball. So you can test what maybe if some of these models will give you a better understanding of the absorption in your data, and you can test them out. Okay, I will show you this in a minute, but for now, in this library model with T-lag, I also wanted to show you an improvement is that you can select several IDs. So in this case, I have subject and dose group. I don't really need dose group. It's the same for within the subject. But if I select it, now when I add a table to my model, so I have a table here that is just outputting the estimates of concentration over 8 hours. Once I run this and I get to the results, I will show you the table. The table that has created has these 2 IDs. That was not happening in the past. So then you had to merge some of the data, and now it allows you to post-process these a lot easier, which is what I have done in this project, and I will show you in a minute. Okay, so back to these new library models that we offered. These were available in previous versions of Phoenix, but you would need to write your own code. So the difference here is that instead of having to write your own code, we have put those in a library. So what you can do, and I'll show you in ones that have already been executed, you can select, for example, a gamma model, and you will see that You have to give it a shape parameter, which we can start with 1 as initial estimate, and maybe a time delay, which we believe it's around 4 hours. Okay, and then the results are the same as in other models. So let's take a look at this plot here to see how this does. And I would probably double click and look at the first 8 hours, which I will show you. I will show you this in a minute. One thing I wanted to point out since I'm here is that we have one new plot in the Phoenix population models, which is these IWRS versus IBAR. Okay, so this is new. This plot was not created in the past for the individual weighted residuals. You did have the population weighted residuals and the corrected weighted residuals, but not this plot. And now this is here by default. Of course, as always, you can go to plots and you can uncheck some if you don't want them in your output, but by default, this new plot is now available in 8.4. Okay, so just before I show you the results of all these models, notice that what I've done, I just made copies and then I've changed the absorption model so we can have a comparison. And I think it's better if I just show you this way. Okay, so this is the data, and this first model that I'm showing you is the model with TLAC. You can see that here is not doing a very good job and is really not fitting the data very well by just holding when the concentration gets into the system. However, if I go to see the results of the gamma model, I'm going to superimpose it now. You can see that maybe this gamma model is doing a little bit better job, but is still not really able to describe what's going on with some of the profiles. The inverse Gaussian, similar to the gamma, still not great. And then the last one, the Weibull, would see that does a much better job. So it really is able to describe this delay absorption and how the data is really delayed in a way that it's picking much higher than with the other models, right? Okay, so I've shown you these new library models, the new plot, the multiple IDs, and now I would like to show you two more things for NLME. Let me upload another project. Okay, so since we are here, I'm also going to show you something that is available for you in your desktop, but it's a lot easier to do in Phoenix hosted, which is the fact that you can actually, I have the same model that I showed you, the Weibull model. I just made a copy, and in this copy, I don't have any results. So if you click here, there's no results. I've cleaned them up. Okay. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how you can send this model to be run outside of Phoenix to another grid of servers, and that is this remote execution. Now, this is available in your desktop, but probably few of you have it set up because it requires that connection to a grid. But in hosted, this comes out of the box. So I can click on it, I can give it a priority, I can say this is a demo for my priority reason and submit it. And now this model, which takes quite a lot of iterations, it's running outside of Phoenix. Okay, it's running in the servers and it will come back. I can bring it back whenever it is done. So if it's running in this JMS, this is called the job management system, you will see that this icon is right next to it. But I can continue to work in my project. This is not tying up any of the work that I'm doing. So I'm going to show you a new thing in 8.4 related to Phoenix models, where I have this model which doesn't have results, showing it to you, okay? And I can execute it. I'm executing locally now. But for some reason, when this gets started, I decided that it's either taking too long, maybe I just want to take a quick peek of what's happening here, but I don't want to wait until the end, until everything has been executed. So I see these iterations happening, So one thing that you can do, and that's available in previous versions too, is to right-click into this area and say stop early. Now, the difference with the stop early, make sure that, yes. Okay, so I can click stop early now, and you will see that it has stopped. Let me make sure. Yeah, it has stopped, but it has given me is still the information at that iteration. So that is the new thing. I know it has stopped early because the return code is 6. If you go to the course status output here and you scroll down, you will also see that it has this exit code of 6, run manually terminated before convergence, and this is available in any information that returns the return code. But the new thing here is that if you stop early, you still will get the results at that iteration. So that iteration, if I go to the status window text, is iteration number 10. It has stopped early, but I get information on the thetas at that iteration, which are different than they would be if I let the whole model run. So just to show you that. So these are like 40, 159. And if I had my whole execution here, this was like 37, 147. Okay, so that is also new in 8.4. And there's a couple more things on NLME that I just gonna show you via slides. As okay, one thing is the addition of new warnings. Those are just usability enhancements that can help you understand some of the issues that you may run into. So for example, here, if you have a macro parameterization, it gives you this warning that it can give incorrect results if you have time variant covariate. So that means that, for example, your weight changes during the time that you're evaluating. So maybe instead of macro parameterization, you want to use micro parameterization. Okay, or you want to use the clearance parameterization. So there's more warnings here to help you understand some of the issues that you might run into depending on the parameterization that you use. There's also this no zero in iteration fit, and that's available when you are doing predictive check. With previous version, what was happening is prior to start the predictive check, it would do one fit to find the best etas using whatever you have for thetas and omegas and sigmas. And this prevents that iteration to happen. It's just going to use the etas that are in the last run, and this improves performance. So I would recommend it if you're using predictive check. It just will allow you to go right into that simulation instead of running one more iteration. Okay. There's also more transparency if you use this option of predicted correction calculation. So now we report what the correction factor is. And also, if you're using this option in NLME of BQLs, and either you use a static BQL or the data is reading the LLOQ from your data set, now that value, the LLOQ value, is in your output in the predictive check. Is this called pred check 0 worksheet, it will have that LLOQ value. So before that LLOQ value was not there and you had to manually merge it. And then there's a few improvements in the engine. If you're using Linux, for example, we now support this as LRM, which is with and without the MPI. You can see that you can select it here if you're using a Linux machine. So this is it for me. I want to make sure that we have some time for Q&A.
Hey, Anna. Yes, we've gotten a couple questions about the SAS7B DAT type format.
Yes.
So one question that we had is that just for import, or can you also export to the SAS7B DAT format?
Great question.
Yeah. So it is just for import in this version. It's to get your data into the project. And then once the data is into your project, you have your normal options for exporting as a SAS transport format, including the new versions that we were showing in the demo, as well as Excel files and DAP formats.
Yes,
Another
thanks,
question we
Linda.
had on that data set type was how big of a SAS data set can be uploaded to Phoenix? And that depends really just on the amount of computer RAM that you have available. That's true not only for the SAS data sets, but other data sets that you upload. It depends on your computer RAM. Anna is showing Phoenix hosted. And in Phoenix hosted, each user is given 32 gigabytes of RAM. So that's would allow you to upload a very large data set. Let's see, we had a question about Phoenix hosted. Is there an additional cost to the Windows license to use Phoenix hosted? It is a separate license that would be set up for you, as well as the Phoenix hosted environment would be set up specifically for you. So that's certainly something you can contact our sales department about if you're interested. And as we mentioned, and the link is in the chat, that there will be a webinar tomorrow about Phoenix hosted that you can attend to learn more. As Anna pointed out, it is a validated system, so you don't have to do the validation yourself. And it is optimized, and has more RAM and includes the remote execution. So there are some reasons that it has extra value. We had a suggestion made on table, so we really appreciate any enhancement request, and we will look into that. Let's see, we just had a question. I was in the middle of typing the answer, and we'll just answer orally. Somebody's asking if you get 8.4, can it be installed locally on the user machines, or should they use a virtual machine? So you have options, and it really just depends on what your IT department prefers. A lot of companies do install it on each user's desktop. You can also use like a Citrix server where Phoenix is installed on the server that users can access, or as Anna's demonstrating, you can get Phoenix hosted and then we host it for you.
Yes, and I just wanted to point out that if you want to download the version of 8.4, if you're available to do that with your IT department, you can go to the support site and just click on this Phoenix 8.4. It would download a zip file and you can just upgrade. If you have a current license, it will remember your license, so you don't need to worry about that. You can uninstall previous versions and install the new version, and your license will be remembered. Now, I'm not suggesting you do that because you need to make sure that your company's policy agrees with that. So maybe your IT department is the only one who's able to upload new versions and they want to do validation, etc. But if you're not under that constraint, you can just go here at the support site and download Phoenix.
Let's see, we have another question in the NLME module. If we choose to run something locally and continue working on the workflow, does Phoenix need to be on Amazon Cloud? So you can, on your local machine, run Phoenix through the JMS, and that allows you to continue working locally. But JMS is an additional license that you purchase. So the distinction there is that in Phoenix hosted, we include remote processing. On your local machine, you would have to also purchase the JMS license.
Yeah, and this reminds me that I didn't show you actually how to bring this back. So let me just quickly show you this. Once you have something that is running on the JMS, you can view that in your window, the view jobs here. And when it's done, it would tell results in queue. And all you have to do is just merge the results. You can use this button right here to merge results, and this merges the results back into your project. Okay, so I'm sorry I didn't show that. So just wanted to make sure that this is shown.
Okay. We are at time. Sebastian, should we continue going with the questions, or should we answer these after the webinar?
That is totally up to you guys. I mean, feel free to stay, dear attendees. If you something else, then yeah, we can address these questions after the event. I would say
Yeah.
let's give it 5 more minutes, maybe. Is that a compromise?
Sure,
Yeah.
sure, that sounds good. Okay, the next one I see is I'm one of those who use Reporter for creating TFLs, easier for customers. Could you give us those additional resources for the Reporter tool? I think you're asking for specific things that might make Reporter easier to use. If you could, submit more information about what you would like to our support department, that will come to me, and we can evaluate, how to improve your performance of Reporter. There's a question about the possibility of working with VPN. Yes, you should be able to use Phoenix with VPN. I know that there have been some issues with licenses when you try to use VPN. That's something that we're actually actively investigating for our next release of Phoenix after 8.4.
Yeah, and Linda, since we're here, just wanted to show that when something has been merged back from a JMS, the queue then is empty. And the way that you would know if something's been run by JMS is to go to the core status, for example. You can see in the user. So in any of the settings in here, in the settings file here, you will see that the user, instead of being yourself, it says JMS. So that would be a way to know that this run has been done via the job management system. Okay, so we can continue with questions, Linda.
Would you recommend any other Certara tool to rate the typical tables, listings, and figures rather than Reporter? And they say maybe Certara's Autopilot. You may not know about our product called PK Submit. That's something that helps with an automated workflow, that helps with data preparation for running NCA. You can add additional parameters to your NCA, like ratios of various parameters. And then it also helps with submitting your data to CDIS. It gets it into proper CDIS format. And one of the things that is being worked on is improving the reporting part of the PK Submit product. So that's something you might want to look into. And then last question is a specific question about licensing. So yes, I mean, you certainly should be contacted by sales before your license expires. And we can just follow up on that to make sure.
All right. Great. Well, thank you very much for being with us today. We hope that you found this useful. And if you're interested in Phoenix Hosted, make sure to join us tomorrow for that webinar.
Thank you all. Take care.